Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Rusch, and I am so excited today to talk to three amazing friends, some family members here that I've known for quite a long time, especially Elden, the fat cyclist. Fatty really needs no introduction when we talk about Leadville, the Leadville 100 mountain bike race. And that's what we're diving into today because this family has a very unique history with this event, an obsession it might be called, but it all started with Elden Nelson, Fatty, who's a good friend, and we've actually ridden together quite a bit. We've done some Leadville 100 podcasts together, how to train for your fastest Leadville ever, and we met through Leadville basically. For anyone who doesn't know, I've done the race a number of times. I've won it 4 times. I think, Melissa, were you even born when I when I 2009? You weren't cycling yet when I was
I was
winning.
born. I was definitely there.
Okay,
I
you
was
were
alive.
there. But our history is connected through Leadville. So I wanted to take the opportunity tonight to just really kind of connect us all and hear more about your family story. And we all know that cycling bonds people together, and especially the Leadville Trail 100 is a pretty iconic, probably the most iconic mountain bike race in the world. And with a long, storied, amazing history, Fatty does a whole podcast on the Leadville Trail 100, and he's been steeped in it for years. So we don't need to go into kind of all of that because you've done it a lot before, but I really kind of want to go through the family tree a little bit. And this was all prompted, of course, because MELISA Rollins just won the Leadville Trail 100 in like the smoking fastest time ever. And her parents were on the race course too, just freaking out. And so I was texting each of them, just being like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I actually sent an Instagram message to MELISA because I was just watching the race and was like, congratulations, great ride. And then she's like, I'm Fatty and Lisa's daughter. And I'm like, oh, oh, you're that person. Because like you were this little kid. But anyway, so it all came together. And then I immediately texted Fatty and Lisa and just like, ah. And that I was like the last one to the party to realize what was going on here. But it just got me so excited, and I want to talk to you all because Leadville really shaped my cycling career and my history as well. I was already a professional athlete. I was doing 24-hour, 3-time 24-hour mountain bike world champion. And I went to Leadville after my third 24-hour mountain bike world championship, just kind of like, oh, I wonder if I could do this short race, which for me was very short. But it really did launch my cycling career as it has launched now. Melissa's cycling, well, a second launch, a third launch. You've had quite a few launches that we'll get into, but it's a life-changing event. So we want to dig in. I really want to kind of get into the family story. So, Fatty, Eldon, you don't mind if I call you Fatty, do you? I can't help it.
I
Um,
prefer it actually. Sure.
okay. All right. Well, Eldon Nelson, Fatty, how many Leadvilles was this for you this year?
This was my 27th start,
Okay.
and my 26th finish. I think your first Leadville 100 was also the year I did not finish. I crashed
Okay.
out.
You crashed
Um,
out. Okay.
yep, I did. However, I've at least got on the starting line and I'm looking at my spreadsheet right now because I do that kind of thing.
Ugh,
I have started every Leadville since 1997. So I missed the
wow.
first three, but I've been at the starting line for every one since.
So tell me about your first Leadville and why do you keep coming back? Like what brought you there in the first place? And then, yeah, it's almost as old as Melissa is. You've been racing Leadville just a couple years shy of her age. So that's kind of insane.
Yeah, it really what brought me was a friend. A friend who had read one of Mike Ferrantino's articles about the first Leadville 100 in, I think it was Bike Magazine, or it might have been Dirt Magazine. It was one of the old, really cool magazines that Mike Ferrantino wrote in. He's been a writing hero forever. And a friend got excited about it, said we should do this. I actually lied on my application and said that I'd ridden 100 miles before. I had not. I had in a week ridden 100 miles. But anyway, I did it, and to my surprise, finished it and was hooked. It was like, this is I'm never going to be fast, but it turns out that I can ride and ride and ride, and it was amazing to discover I'm an athlete.
So were you an avid cyclist before?
No, I had the same friend who said we should do the Leadville 100 had also told me I should sell my rollerblades and buy a mountain bike. So I did, and I owe that friend a debt of gratitude. Even though rollerblades I think are fantastic, they were a great way to commute to work.
I mean, I had rollerblades too. I used to actually race on rollerblades. So that is another story. But I want to ask you, okay, so like we all get, going to a bike race, and Melisa had a very similar experience of doing her first Leadville and being like, wow. I've been reading some of your interviews and posts about how you just were like looking for this outdoor, activity to do, and you went and did Leadville and really got hooked. I'm curious, Fatty, what brought you back 27 years? I mean, that's kind of insane to do the same course again and again and again and again. Like what was driving you to make that a like mainstay of your year?
Part of it was frustration. I thought, my first time 10.5 hours. Second time I was on the threshold of sub 9, and for 13 more years I was just trying to get under 9 hours. And then you start to also make friends, and you start to feel like you are at home, and it starts to feel like a tradition, kind of like Christmas, right? And it was what I do, and at some point there's also well, I've got a streak and I don't want to break it.
Yeah. I mean, well, now you're pretty consistently under 9 all the time, right? What's your fastest time you've racked on that course?
My fastest time was 8 hours and 12 minutes. And
okay.
You may not remember it, but it was very important to me because I wanted to beat your first winning time. That was my
target. That's awesome. Well, I'm still faster than you. I still have a faster time. So does your daughter now have a faster time than you. And maybe your wife has a faster time than you. Is that right? No. Okay.
No, you're the one that got me my fastest time, Rebecca.
Yeah, I want to get into that a little bit. And I also want to acknowledge, I mean, Fatty, I love how you talk about the community of cycling and around Leadville, but you've really helped nurture that with your podcast, with your writing, with your blogs. I mean, I know you have like a regular job, but you really have sort of been one of the people that helps tell the history and the story and keep the kind of community of it alive. And I really appreciate that. We've had some really fun times hosting training rides on the course. You've actually educated me a lot because I came in totally blind. I had no information. Literally, I'd never been on 1 inch of the course, and then started to prepare, started to learn, kind of like you did, Melisa. You really like covered every inch of that course and really got to know it and dialed in your gear. But early on, Fatty, you were actually teaching me a little bit, which I'm super grateful for. I want to get to you, Lisa, because we actually have a really fun history together. That was one of my favorite rides. After my 4 wins, I was sort of like, you know what, I've done what I need to do here as far as podiums, but I still want to be part of the community and I want to give back. And I did 1 year where I rode with a paracyclist athlete and helped him get his fastest time. And then I also had the pleasure of riding with you, Lisa. I don't even remember, how did that come up when we were like, let's ride together and I'll help you. And you were trying to tell me what goal you were trying to hit. And
well, no, that was the year I think that I had single speeded the year before. And I said to Elden, I'm so exhausted. Let's just go ride for fun. And I remember we actually went on a vacation that didn't involve a bike. We were in South Carolina, North Carolina or something, when you texted Elden and said, I'm thinking about, I would love to ride with your wife. I want to go back. And I said, to Eldon, I'm like, I haven't really even put forth a ton of effort. We're on vacation on a beach right now. So it kind of scared me, but I jumped at the chance. You can't say no to having a pro.
Well, it was only like a month out or something, wasn't it?
It was. Yes.
Yeah.
It was July when you texted. It was 1 month out. And I was like, I hadn't even, yeah. So I was a little bit scared. I was like, why didn't I know this 2 months ago? But
well, it was kind of fun because I felt like really inspired to, I knew you're fast, I knew you're a good athlete, but I also was inspired to like share some of the pro tips with like the quote unquote regular people, because you started to see, like, I'd never used a musette bag until like the second year of Leadville. And then you started to see all these tactics coming in and how attention to detail on like nutrition, pacing, aid stations, you know, and we talked about, you were like, well, I'm wearing bibs and I'm going to have to stop and pee. I'm like, oh, no, you're not. It's like, it was just really cool to bring what I knew to you. But when I want to know when your first Leadville was and your kind of origin story with the event, and when you met Eldon and he's like, this is our Christmas in August. We're going to all go do this thing. And you're like, what? I want to know how that started.
Yeah, well, I have kind of an interesting story. I was one of those runners that was training for a marathon and of course got injured. And I had a neighbor that lived across the street that always did this mountain bike race. So it's called the Leadville 100. And he said, I really think that you could do the Leadville 100. And I'm like, well, I guess I should apply and try, because, you know, my running career seems to be at a standstill. I'm constantly injured. And so I applied, got in. During that time of my life, my brother had just graduated from podiatric school. He was trying to get his career off the ground. And my husband was sick. I was facing the future as having to leave my family, my kids that I'd been with, to go back to work. So this was like my last hurrah. So I poured my heart into the training. My brother and I trained every weekend. We'd go on rides. And then, I mean, and I can say Leadville changed my life, literally. I did not know what was in store for me when I put my foot over that bike that day. Just driving to Leadville, we were in a freak accident on the way where a piece of metal was kicked up and went through the windshield of the truck that we were driving. It whizzed past me and hit my brother in the back seat. I went out of my mind. I thought he was dead. I thought his head had been chopped off, but it had curved at the last minute and smacked him in the face. We went back. He broke his nose. He knocked some teeth loose. But we were determined to do this stupid race. We got back in the car the next day with his nose huge across his face, his teeth loose, and we drove to Leadville. And that, which I think is so funny, is they used to have a medical check-in, and he went through the medical check-in and they said everything was okay. And they let him race. As if they cared. With his nose smushed across his face. But
did you finish that first year? Did you finish?
That was the year, that was 2000. And that was the year of the rain.
Okay.
And my brother and I started out together. When I started down the descent off of Carter, I immediately got a flat tire, and my brother rode away, didn't know that I had a flat tire. And then I spent 45 minutes changing that flat tire because I did not know how to do it. The next 5 hours, I chased my brother down. He waited for me at each of the aid stations and had to leave because he didn't want to get cut. I caught him at the top of Columbine. We descended back to Twin Lakes, and that's when the rain started. And it rained and was freezing cold for the next 5 hours. My brother and I separated on power line. I was ahead of him by a little bit. I lost all my brakes because it was back when they were, what do we call them, Eldon?
Caliper brakes, V-brake. Yeah.
So my hands were so cold, I couldn't tie my shoes. I was sopping wet. I had a little rain jacket on. I was to the point when my little bike computer said 100 miles, my head dropped and I literally had no muscles in my neck. I had to hold my head up as I was pedaling. So I was beyond hypothermic, everything. I crossed the line in 11:55. And lo and behold, my brother crossed in 11:56. He was
Oh,
behind me. He didn't know I was ahead of him,
oh my
and I
gosh.
didn't know he was behind me. And then I proceeded to spend two hours in an ambulance warming up.
Hmm.
But I stepped away from that race a changed woman. Because of what I did and what I accomplished and overcame during that race, changed me as a person. I was then able to go on and face many challenges in my life post race. And then once I kind of got things settled down, I went back. So I didn't want Leadville to beat me. I wanted to go back and do better and have my head held high as I crossed the finish line. So that's why I went back, I think in 2006. And then I've gone every year since then, just always like Melisa, trying to better the time,
Yeah.
the time before.
Well, it is funny, we always want to better our own time, better our own time. And I mean, there's the lure of the buckle and that kind of stuff. But even, I mean, Melisa, you said in your interviews, you kept coming back wanting to just better your time. And I felt the same way. I just wanted to go a little faster and break my own record. And, people were, the last year I won it, people are like, oh, it's the women's field is more and more competitive. Of course, nothing compared to this year. But I was like, no, I'm happy that there's more women coming. And if I race a great race and someone beats me, like that's okay. Like I'll actually be good with that if I feel like I had my best race. So I love that you're kind of wanting to better yourself each time. And I know you did a single speed. And then the year that we raced it together, um, I was definitely a cheerleader, but also I pushed you hard and you had a goal. What was your goal time?
Well, you and I never really talked about it, but of course I wanted to sub 9.
Yeah.
But I didn't know where I was at physically because I hadn't trained a lot. But of course I wanted to be sub 9, and we did. We didn't just beat it. We did an 8:39.
Is that your fastest time to date?
That's my fastest time. But then I had to go back. I had to go back and do a sub 9 without Rebecca pulling me.
No,
and I did.
Yeah, you did.
It took me 2 years. The next year I did a 9:07 and it was heartbreaking. And then the following year I did an 49, Elden. I think that's what it was, something like that. So I was able to do it.
And I love that you talked about how, doing Leadville and doing hard things, like it gave you the confidence to be able to be resilient in the rest of your life. And,
honestly, that's what I love about Leadville is that it taught me something. And maybe that's the draw that keeps bringing me back is because I appreciate it. And I just know its value beyond me pedaling 100 miles.
Absolutely. Bike racing really, it kind of doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And especially endurance sports events, really, I believe are, our training ground for life. And we carry a lot of those lessons with us. And Leadville gathers a really special group of people. Everyone out there is riding, for something, whether it's to win or break their own record or to, deal with hardship or whatever it is. I kind of love that story. And I knew that it really helped you. So, but this was all before you met Elden. You raced Leadville before you met
Exactly.
Mr. Leadville.
I mean, I knew Elden because he actually was my neighbor. He lived across the street. Him and his sweet little wife. I loved him. And what's really funny is that Elden and his late wife Susan were second parents to my daughter Melisa. I mean, Melisa found solace over at their house, literally. Oh. So yes, Elden has been her stepdad for 14 years, but she's been over at Elden and Susan's house since she was 5.
What a cool story.
It is deep. Yeah.
And so when did you two do your first Leadville that you both were together? You're like, we're going to Leadville.
Yeah,
that 2010.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So cool. Like it really is a family. It's like a family album. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Except for that I had a little daughter at home that I tried to take out on mountain bike rides. She was not having any of that nonsense.
Well, yeah, I want to hear from you, Lisa. I want to hear Melissa's sort of entree into sports, and you dragging this kid around, being like, "We're going to this bike race." And yeah, tell me a little bit about her early days.
Well, I can say that Melissa had zero interest in Leadville. She was all, I mean, when she got to high school, it was swim, 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 and soccer, 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 and had wanted nothing to do with biking. Biking was mom's thing. And I think that's really what kind of scared her away. I tried to bring her biking, and it was like, I hate biking. Why do we always go on trips that involve biking? And she really didn't come to Leadville. I can't miss my swim lesson, my swim team practice, Mom. I can't. So, yeah. I mean, she saw it from afar because I think it was more my thing, and she had her thing. And so, but it was that realization when she kind of hit college, and she didn't know what she was doing. I mean, I remember her coming into my room saying, Mom, I'm in college and I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I just remember her crying on my bed. And I said, why don't you join the U has a biking team, Melissa? You like biking. You know, and biking's always there. So, you know, you can swim, but there's not always a swim team available. I said, go join the bike team. And she found some friends. And I think that's where it.
Oh my gosh. So Melissa, when your mom was telling this story about how you hated biking, and you're like, yeah, I hated it. What did you hate about it?
I don't know. It's just hard. The uphill, the downhill, the rocks. The rocks were the worst part. I did not like the rocks.
This is the Leadville 100 champion. It was hard. Okay, it was too hard. When did it kind of catch your eye? Did you join the bike team in college then? And did that stick?
I must have joined it. I mean, I don't remember it that way, but
yeah.
I started riding casually, I think, with my mom. I mean, this whole story is actually more of like a poetic story where a mom and a daughter found something to love together and became best friends.
Oh,
and it really is.
I know. We can end the podcast right now. Everybody's crying. So, well, but you hated it. So when did you actually come to it? You started to grow up, get a little older, and you're like, my mom does love to do this thing. Maybe I should do it with her. Was there any of that motivation?
I mean, maybe, I don't know. I remember that I was in college. I remember this moment when I came and sat on my mom's bed and cried. And I remembered it was because I had been this athlete in high school where I was dancing between swim practice and soccer. And then I went to college and immersed myself in academics, which I love college. I have always wanted to be a chemist, and I am now, which is amazing as well. But I wasn't an athlete anymore, and I wanted to become one again. And I needed the motivation to do it, and I was inspired by these people in my life that love.
What was the decision to do the first Leadville you did? What was 2016? Is that right?
Yeah.
What was it? Were there bike races before that, or not?
I mean, only in preparation for it. But Leadville was I mean, Elden, do you remember better than I do how this came about?
I know that you wanted to get away, and we had some friends in Leadville. Jesse King said, you know, hey, we could use a nanny, and I knew the owner of Periodic Brewery, and it was an opportunity for you to have a summer in a different place, getting some work done.
Well, that was the second year, though.
Was that the second year?
Yeah, the first year.
Remember?
Yeah, that's true.
It all blends together. That is a problem with having done this a lot of times. There is
27 years of Leadville. They kind of blend together. Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Elden, do you remember that one year that I was there?
Do you remember that one year when your daughter won the event? You're going to remember
I will
2024 really
I
well.
will not forever. I mean, there are a couple of standout special years, and yeah, 2024 is the one that will stand out
Yeah.
above all of them.
Yeah, but back to Melissa, it was you won that bike. And so we had this extra
Oh.
bike. And that's when Melissa said, "Do you think that I could use that bike and actually get to Leadville and try Leadville out?"
Yeah.
That's right.
So that's
That was
what
the
I'm
prior year.
thinking that was what would happen.
And
or
I'm
what
sure
had
that's
happened.
right. And I didn't remember that because, I mean, back in Fat Cyclist days, it was super common for people to give me bikes.
Yeah.
There was, I mean, it's not like that necessarily anymore, but I couldn't stop folks from sending me product. And so, yeah, I had a bike, a really nice Cannondale Scalpel too. That I had no use for because I had other bikes I preferred. And so, yeah, I think we used that as a nice little carrot to get Melissa out to the course. The details I honestly don't really remember about that.
And was it
was
like
important to her.
family training? Did you like take her up there and
Yes.
family riding up
Oh, yeah.
Columbine together with mom? And was that happening?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the preparation for this race, every single weekend I was hanging out with my parents. It was we went on long rides. We practiced eating gels every 30 minutes. We for 10 hours. I mean, we did so many things together. It was
And I
crazy.
remember I was faster than her.
Not
Quite a bit.
anymore. Nobody's faster than her now.
I know. I have to relish in that. Those first 2 years, I think that I was a little bit faster than her. Not on the descents ever, but
I did have a hard time going uphill
from the first. So
I mean, it's so cool that you got to kind of learn the ropes through your parents and your family and just kind of share that is really pretty cool. Because I'll tell you, endurance training is lonely. It's very lonely, and especially going to races where you don't have any history, you don't really know anybody, you don't know the course, and as a new athlete, like trying to figure it out, and maybe you can't afford a coach yet. It's pretty cool that your parents were like, yeah, we can help you crush this thing. And your first time was, maybe it sounds like about maybe the same, about 10 and a half hours. Is that right, Melissa?
Yeah, it was 10-12. Yep.
So that's about
Yeah.
the same as Elden's first time and Lisa's
Little
first
faster.
time, maybe.
Little
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah. I mean,
I had
that's
the
really
advantage of having course knowledge and nutrition knowledge and
huge.
training partners.
Huge.
Yep.
And so, you've talked about this a little bit already, that first year kind of lit a fire for you, that you really, did you fall in love just with this race or with cycling? Like, what was the spark that happened in 2016?
I think it was the race. I don't think it was, I mean, I love training, and I found a very similar desire to do it as I did to swimming in high school, and just having something to focus on. I loved it. But Leadville was it for me. Like Elden said in his recollection of my first year, he actually had a friend that summer, the following summer, who gave me a place to stay. And I stayed in Leadville in preparation for the race because I loved it so much up there.
Did you ever dream that you would ever win it? Is that what you were trying to do?
I don't think so. I don't think that came until later. I think my dream was just loving it. I wasn't, I mean, I was competitive, but maybe not self-assured yet, or that hadn't crossed my mind, at least not until maybe a little bit later on.
So you're training all year for this one race just because you want to better your own time.
Correct. Yeah.
And hang out with your family and ride up Columbine 5 million times. Oh my
It's
God.
kind of cool though, so it's okay.
What's that?
Melissa, how many times have you been up Columbine?
Yeah.
Do you know?
I know. I don't know, but I know I did it 4 times in one day once.
4 times in one day. And I mean, it's so cool. Like it is a really amazing course, but you didn't get tired of putting all your energy for years into one specific course?
How could you?
I love it.
You're talking to the wrong people if you're asking that question.
I'm trying to help the rest of the world understand this crazy family who is obsessed with this awesome race. And I agree, it is an awesome race. I've done it 8 times, which is nothing compared to this family. Okay,
And we need
so
to get you to do at least a couple more than Reba. I mean,
yeah,
we
how
really
come?
do. Well, the 10-year buckle is kind of cool.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I probably could get, but even if you've had gap years, it doesn't matter.
Oh, sure.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. See, look, he's the instigator. This is how he gets people to keep coming back. Like, lure me with a buckle. All right. So I want to get a little bit into the day. And I mean, Melissa, you put in one of your interviews that, you finished 6th, I think in 20, was it 21?
Yeah,
6th place. That was your highest finish. What was that time?
that was a 7:49. I believe.
7:49. Cool.
Mhm.
So you were like bringing your time down by 45 minutes an hour each year that you went
Every single year.
back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've
Yeah.
gone faster every single year. And that year, that performance actually got you a pro contract. You were brought to the attention of Nicola Cranmer, who's an awesome friend, and also Kristen Armstrong, that team 2024.
Yep.
I mean, holy cow. So all of a
Yeah.
sudden you are thrust right in with this super pro team with really great women as mentors. What was that like to get that phone call?
It was crazy. I don't know. It was a dream. It was
Because
a
you weren't
dream.
shooting for being a pro rider, were you? Was that starting to?
At that point I was. Yeah.
Okay.
At that point I was. This was 2021, so
Mhm.
I actually had been ready for this to happen in 2020, but obviously there was no racing.
Yeah.
So I was ready for this, and I knew something was going to happen at Leadville that year. I had put the pressure on myself, but I was hoping that it would come away with something big. Yeah.
That's awesome. It sure did. Do you come to train in Idaho? Because they're based out of Idaho.
I've been up there a few times. It's
Yeah.
the base has actually moved to Roanoke, Virginia, just
Oh,
because
okay.
of sponsor obligations, but
Mhm.
Kristen still lives in Boise, so I've
Yeah.
gone up there. Yeah.
That's crazy because my husband's from Roanoke. So that's actually really funny.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, we live in Idaho now, but yeah, he's from Roanoke. It's a really cool place. Good place to ride a bike as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so let's jump. So you get this pro contract, you're racing on the road, you're doing crit races to work on your start. Like that was really cool to hear that because I mean, anyone who's done Leadville knows the start is just horrific. It goes out so fast, and I've never been a fast starter either. One of my favorite, one of the years that I won the race, the guy who finished right behind me, he asked me, he's like, well, why do you always start so slowly? And he had finished right behind me. So I was like, well, why do you always finish so slowly? Because it always took me about half the course. I liked hearing that you kind of made your move on Columbine. I want to hear about that because that's really pretty much every time I won. I was never in the lead until we got to Columbine. And then I started like, okay, can I put a little pressure on, and then you do, and then of course running scared all the way back home as you did.
So
But
scared. So
yeah,
scary.
yeah. So I wanna take me through, and Fatty and Lisa, you rode this year as well.
Mhm.
And were you
Yep.
riding together? Was it a plan
Mhm.
to like ride together? And
Yeah.
I'm kind of was surprised that, well, I guess you can't miss it because it's like Christmas at the family home, but I kept thinking like, why wouldn't you be crewing for her or like a support? Like, was there any thought of that you should play a different role for your daughter?
No.
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 We have a big family. I mean, we're really sort of a Brady Bunch family. We have plenty of crew, right? I
Okay.
brought 4 kids to the family. She brought 3 kids to the family. We got a good sized crew. They
Okay.
don't
Right.
need
And
any more crew.
I'm on a pro team, but I prefer my family to be my crew.
Totally.
Yeah.
My husband was my one and only crew the whole time. And yeah.
He's the best.
So
Yeah.
I get that. Okay, so did you plan to stay together, the two of you, you and Lisa? You were
Yeah.
like, we're gonna ride together.
Yeah.
And were you going for a time? Were you just having fun? Okay. And
We
what was go ahead.
We did have an objective, and that was to know as much as possible about Melissa's race.
Okay.
And we had a pretty good idea. So last year was kind of a rough year for me because I had a spinal fusion 3 months to the day before Leadville 100. So we rode together so Lisa could take care of me. Turns out we really liked racing together as well as training together. We did it again this year, and I just love it. But we made sure that we had friends texting us, and we made sure we had Melissa's times of being automatically texted during it.
Oh my gosh.
And so and of course we had my podcast partner was handling one of the crew stations, and Blake, one of Lisa's kids, and my twins, Katie and Carrie, were crewing for us at the other place. So we had lots of people relaying information to us. But we were my brightest recollection of the day is the relaying of how Melissa was doing and sort of having a mental dot of where she was versus where we were during the day, and kind of imagining that rubber band stretching out further and further, and how incredible that was to be, rolling into Twin Lakes and knowing that she was heading, she was at the base of Columbine, power line, right? And that that was happening. So it was just it's amazing to have been in a race and also spectating in a way.
Well, and it's an out and back format, which is one of the unique things of Leadville. So, let's walk through race morning. So you're all getting ready. Were you all staying like together in the same place, or like did you warm up together as a family?
So, one of Melissa's training strategies, and you can go into this more, it was altitude acclimation, right? So she had a place. And this is where friends and family kind of come back in. You can talk about a good friend that Melissa met back in 2017 and is, a friend to this day who provided a place for Melissa to stay. So she had a spot in Leadville. Lisa and I were in Breckenridge. So we had a drive on racing.
Oh, yeah.
So, it was very different.
But you drove to my house.
Yeah, did you see each other before the start?
We passed. She was leaving as we were arriving.
And did any of you it sounds like, did any of you have the inkling that she was going to be really competitive and right up there? Was everybody kind of like, ooh, she might do really well? Did you all know that?
Melissa had 2 weeks before won the Leadville 100 stage race.
Yeah.
So we knew she was going to do great. And I don't know if it was the don't want the jinx kind of thing. So I didn't say,
we didn't talk about it.
Can you win?
Yeah.
But we were talking openly about podiuming. I mean, so that was the conversation.
Okay. That she's going to be in the mix, but like, you weren't like, she's going to win it.
Right.
Melissa, were you?
Yeah, Melissa told me back in January that she was like, "This is my A race, Mom. I want to be on the podium at Leadville." And in my heart of hearts, I was like, "I want you to be on the podium," but I'm looking at the Grand Prix people, and I'm going, "These are the fastest women in the nation, and she wants to do this, and I want her to succeed." But I was like, I think that her best case might be top 5, 5th. I don't know. So I kind of kept that to myself, but I was like, I want her to win so badly, but I didn't want to jinx it.
Well, that's what racing's about. You never know. You can put
I know.
yourself the best training, the best position,
Yep.
and you have a flat tire. I mean, we
Yep.
saw it happen in the Olympics. We're seeing it happen, and so yeah, and especially with a 100-mile high altitude race, you can have a crash. You can have, whatever can happen. So it's really hard to be like, I'm gonna win.
Yeah.
Were you thinking that, Melissa? What was going through your head that race morning and
I
leading into
mean,
this?
it's hard. Yeah, for the whole year, every day that I trained, it was for winning Leadville. I'd wanted to. It was everything.
Yeah.
Every race I did, all of the preparation this year was for this one day. So, yes, I
What was your
wanted to win.
time last year? How much did you better your time from previous?
My best time was that year in 2021. So, 7:49. I've
Okay,
dropped
so you went from
40 minutes.
7:40. Yeah, you dropped 40 minutes. That's huge. Um, it's not huge when you're going 10 and a half hours, but that's pretty huge when you're sub 8 already. That's pretty cool. So race morning rolls up. I mean, the weather looked terrible the day before and the day after.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Were you
Yeah, we
hoping for
lucked
bad
out.
weather? I know one of the years I was like, I hope it, because I knew it would like sort of beat the other racers, but I always kind of hoped for bad weather because it helped me the first year. What were you
Yeah.
hoping for?
Honestly, I didn't care.
You didn't
I
care.
felt ready for whatever was gonna come. Yeah. Yeah.
So
It
cool.
was crazy. Yeah.
And so it quickly broke down into, I think, 3 or 4 women, right? It's sort of like after like 20 miles or so, is that kind of, up St. Kevin's? And then was there sort of a break there?
Yeah,
Like,
there was a very distinct break at the turn on St. Kevin's. So we're talking
mhm.
12 minutes in. Like 12 minutes up to climb.
Oh,
It
wow.
was
Okay.
it was broken. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And what
So
were you thinking at that moment when the first break happened and you're in it?
Oh my gosh, I'm friends with Sophia, so I'm like, I
Yeah.
look over at her and I was like, oh my gosh, you see, I made it. You see that? Are you seeing this? I'm seeing this. Yeah, so it's like part of me is like so confident, right? And then the other part of me is like, but I'm just a girl. I don't know. Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, you felt good. You felt like you should be there, but there were still some doubts because you were a newer racer. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've never won anything this big. Why would I believe that I could? I don't know.
It's so awesome, but you felt great. So you're trusting yourself. You're like, yeah, I feel good. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to keep pushing it. Tell me about your aid stations and everyone flying through and, you know, going through before you get up to Columbine Climb. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. We had our own women's start, so we were 5 minutes behind the pro men and 12 minutes before the amateur men, and it was mostly just us. The aid stations were not hectic. Not, I mean, it was like a crowd of people cheering, not like a crowd of animals fighting for
Oh
the
my God,
last
it's
piece of
so
meat.
different. So different than my experiences. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, just to have clear, open trail and be able to
Yeah, I knew
see your
exactly
aid
where everyone
station.
was.
That's
I mean, they
awesome.
saw me. Like
Yeah.
my people were in the middle of the road because it was just me and them. There's only, I
Wow.
mean, there's only 3 riders.
I
And,
mean, it's
and
really awesome to see the progression of that, it's one thing that's cool about Leadville is that everyone gets to race together and you get to see the pros and the amateurs, but it's also one of the challenging parts of it because it makes it pretty hectic for the pro race for sure. What were you going to say, Eldon?
well, the experience for pros is truly different than
Yeah.
you would have ever experienced in Leadville, Reba.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, Melissa this year started 5 minutes after the pro men
Yeah.
and 12 minutes, I think it was, before the next group of elite amateur racers. So she, it really, at how big was that corral, Melissa? The pro women corral that you were in. How many people would you
Maybe
say were in there?
40. it was small. It
Wow.
So
was small.
way smaller
Yeah.
than any of the rest of us have ever experienced at the beginning
Yeah.
of that race.
Which
To
is
kind of be alone.
which
Yeah.
is so curious that I was on track at one point. If I wouldn't have completely fallen apart in the second half, I was on track to break the record. I mean, it's the fact
Easy.
I just think giving women the chance to ride at their capacity is it I don't know. It's
It's
still so
super cool.
fast.
I love that
Yeah.
they're able to do it. It's not realistic for a lot of events who don't have the bandwidth of, a giant corporation.
Totally.
So, but I do think that that's a really positive progression in the pro fields. Because yeah, I mean, it was literally like doing battle to get up St. Kevin's, and people are walking and like literally you can't get through the scrum. No matter how fast you start, there were always, hundreds and hundreds of other dudes around like who shouldn't be there, so it's
Yeah.
definitely different. I mean, that's so cool. It must have been so nice to just have clear open trail and to see where your competitors are. That was another thing that's different for me is I never knew where anybody was who I was racing
Yeah.
against,
Yeah.
like, so what a gift to know. So I'm curious because you said, okay, well, you said you fell apart in the second half, which I didn't know that. It doesn't seem like it because you won the race, but so you're feeling good. And then I did read that when you got to the base of Columbine, you decided to sort of put the pressure down a little and test the other two riders. Tell us about that.
I was trying to be so patient. I was like, too early. It's too early for this. But so I was just gonna follow. I was just gonna follow up the Columbine, feel it out. And we take the left hand into the trees a bit, and I'm on Sophia's wheel. There's three of us, Sophia in the lead, I'm second wheel, Michaela third. And I start to hear Michaela do some like she's shifting a bunch up and down, up and down, up and down. I can tell she's uncomfortable. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I gotta go. I gotta
Okay.
just like a little bit, just see what
So you
happens.
went around Sophia and we're just like, see ya.
No, I just went around Sophia and I figured she would jump on my wheel and we would go. And then I looked back and I had a gap. And then I just rode away. It was weird.
So when you had the gap, were you like, okay, like,
Yeah,
did you try to push
yeah.
harder or you're like, no, just stay where I'm at? Like, what were you
I tried
thinking?
to, I think I went a bit hard for maybe like 5 or 10 minutes. And then I was
Mhm.
like, okay, the gap's pretty solid and I don't want to die the second half. So I think if I can just stay their pace, that would be the best.
It's
So I
so
slowed down
awesome.
a
I
bit.
love that section too, because I've done that move a couple times and it's like those switchbacks, you get out of sight, out of mind. And I was always like, get out of sight and then I'm good. Out of sight, out of mind, and like, so it's a really cool part of the course where you can no longer see, if somebody's
Mhm.
5 minutes ahead, 2 minutes ahead. So
Yeah.
had you planned that ahead of time?
No.
Just
I
happened
had no
organically?
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only had one intention the whole race, and that was to lead down power line descent.
To
That
lead
was
power line
all I
descent.
wanted.
Okay. And was that for
Mhm.
safety or what was that about?
I had a feeling that there would be a selection at the bottom
Yeah.
of power line that would
Yeah.
make it to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you put the hammer down a little bit and slowly grind away up Columbine. When you got to the turnaround and you got a visual again, then on the riders behind you, what was the gap at that point? Could you tell?
I think I had 4 minutes or so, 4 minutes ish. Yeah, just
So you
but
made the
I was
turnaround and you didn't see them till you started, were pretty far down. Were you surprised?
yeah,
Yeah,
actually. I was
that's
like,
a lot.
whoa, whoa. I
That's
can't,
huge.
yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy, but I was starting to hurt toward the top. I
Hmm.
was, I was feeling it,
Starting
and
to
that
hurt
was,
toward the top.
it was, isn't that weird? It was the legs you dream about. You dream about these legs every single night before a race when I had them. Yeah.
So you see your gap, you've gassed it really hard up Columbine, and you're descending. What are you doing to try to like, and now it's like, oh my gosh, I got to hold on to it for another 50 miles. What are you thinking? Are you getting nutrition in? What are you telling yourself? What's the pep talk you're giving yourself as you're descending Columbine?
I need to interject right here before she proceeds, because she now holds the qualm of the Columbine descent and power line. So this girl can descend. So she knew that she would even put more minutes on, I think, as she was descending.
That's awesome.
I was always more worried about the climbs. The descents, if I could just make it over the climbs, that was always my, like, I felt very good every time I went downhill.
Nice.
However, I started to cramp going down Columbine.
Yeah.
And I was like,
down Columbine,
no.
you were cramping?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens. That happens to me because you stop moving your legs around in a circle.
Yeah.
Hang on 1 second. So yeah, cramping on the downhill is actually kind of a common thing when you put that much in on the uphill, because all of a sudden you stop. You're like stopped and you're like in this flexed position. But the descent was okay. You're cramping, so are you trying to get nutrition in? You're trying to just like, what are you saying to yourself at this point?
I'm just trying to get down. I don't know. Honestly, I was like, I'm winning.
I love that.
I can't wait to show my mom.
Okay, so this is about when you did get to show your mom, and you. So when did you pass each other?
Yeah, I'll interject there because I had just come. We were in the spot between Twin Lakes and the climb of Power Line, and
Columbine.
Excuse me, Columbine. And I had just got an update that she had gone through the goat trail on the descent, so I knew she was coming. And then all of a sudden I see the helicopter and it's just overhead. And I'm like yelling to everybody around me, my daughter's coming down the mountain.
You're like, how can you ride up Columbine while you're crying and yelling and trying to breathe at 10,000 feet? Like,
yep. So
did you pull over?
I knew she was coming.
Did you pull over, you guys? Or
oh no.
It was a streak. I mean, she was like there and gone. There was no pulling over. But it was more of, I mean, I knew she'd gone through the goat trail, but I didn't know where her competitors were.
Yeah.
So I was like, as soon as she passed, I'm looking at the clock going, okay, the count. When is the next woman coming? Yeah. So that.
And what was the count that you got from when she passed to when you saw Sophia?
So
how many?
It was, Elden, was it 4 minutes before Sophia? Or no, it was 6 minutes.
And
we missed Michaela because Michaela's kind of in a nondescript,
very neutral
white
color.
Jersey, black shorts. So I didn't count her in. And so I saw Sophia and I was like, wow, that is a big gap. Not knowing that Michaela had been in there. But yeah, I was like, she's got this. She's doing so great. Yeah. And she had a big old smile on her face. Her big smile under her sunglasses is great.
Well, she texted me that she started crying when she saw you both because she just knew you'd be so proud that she was winning.
Yeah. I was yelling to everyone around us.
I mean, it's crazy. In that moment, I didn't even care if I won. Like, that was my win of the day. I won like 10,000 times that day, but that was the first win.
So amazing. Yeah.
What were you thinking, Fatty, when you saw that was going on, that pass? And
I thought a couple of things. For one thing, I checked my GPS because the nerd in me really did want to start looking, and the countdown started now, and I noted my place. I was like, okay, we are barely. I know we were not. We were close to the base of Columbine. I was like, okay, it is. Here's where we are. Here's the time. Let's see what the distance and time is till we see someone. And so I'm paying much more attention. But even more than that, I started thinking back to a couple of weeks ago when Melissa was sort of breaking down the story of her the stage race win. And that she knew that when she had got to after stage 2, within 10 seconds of the podium had a gap of 10 seconds, right? Between the three of them, but she knew that she had a great chance of winning from that point. And I thought, she's at that point again. She is ahead this time, and she's at the final third of the race, which is where she shined. And I thought, that's what I thought. I was like, for the first time, I thought, this isn't going to be a podium for her. If she holds it together, this is going to be a win. And so, yeah, from then on, I was no longer thinking about podium. I was thinking top of the podium. And, that makes you more excited and more anxious than you were before. Because it's like the stakes get higher when you start thinking about a win. So.
Yeah. And you're thinking, oh, what if? Like, I don't know how you two kept riding uphill after that. I would have wanted to turn around and be at the finish line and like see the action.
But
like,
you say that, but that's not true. You've never turned around during there is the racer's instinct. And I mean, that is something all three of us really share. But I will say that I do not remember Columbine in the way that I normally remember Columbine.
Yeah.
I remember Columbine in this year as being faster and easier than usual, and that I didn't think about, my ride. It was Melissa, and us yelling to everyone about how she was doing and talking with everyone, and it was a rolling party. And I honestly, I've never been so distracted or had so much fun.
Yeah, I think I told everyone, my daughter's winning. My daughter is winning.
And they're like, okay, yeah, we know. We're just trying to breathe up here, please. I love that, Melissa, you gave them the energy to fly through the rest of the course, and they were kind of like on your wheel in a way. That's
exactly right.
Yes. Like, you probably wanted to hurry to be back to the finish, like as fast as you could.
That's
exactly I wanted to finish I wanted to be to the finish so I could drive to see them, but then I realized the reality of that was not possible.
Oh no. When you went, you had all the media and the flowers and all this stuff. Okay, so back to the course. You fly down Columbine and you're like, wow, I know I have multiple minutes lead. And then tell me, you kind of mentioned earlier that you said you fell apart a little in the second half. When did that start? When did you start feeling like you cramped a little down Columbine? Tell us what was happening next, or what started sort of creeping in.
Yeah, it was like the story of cramps mostly.
So all the rest of the way home, you were nursing cramps?
Anytime there was a prolonged downhill followed by an uphill. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So exactly what you were saying, just anytime I stopped pedaling.
Which is the whole race, yeah. There is no...
I probably cramped 8 times, maybe more. It particularly bad on power line. I was doing the math in my head, like how much time can I bleed here and still make it over the top in the lead, because that was sort of you have to break it down into small goals when you're 2 hours from the finish line and you're cramping. So I'm like, okay, just gotta make it to the top of power line.
Did you ever have to get off your bike and did it fully ever seize you?
Nope.
No, but you're waiting for that to happen.
No, it hit hard enough that I was like yelling and crying, and then it would subside. Yeah, but anytime standing up was not an option. My butt was not doing good on power line. So
but you were able to ride all the way up power line. You didn't have to get off and walk anything. Right, so you're still able to put enough pressure to keep riding up. Were you getting any splits? Were you hearing the helicopters closer, or were you getting any inkling that the gap was going down?
I just couldn't focus on anything but how much I was hurting.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I wasn't sure until I made it to the May Queen climb, and they told me it was 4 minutes, which meant that it was coming down, because I had heard it was 11 at one point.
Okay, so it was as high as 11 and then went down to about 4 at the end. Well, it's great that you got a split. Man, I never got a split anywhere.
I guess that's that's the advantage of the motorcycles.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's not very fun when you're in the pain cave going up May Queen and there's a motorcycle right here and an e-bike right here and a razor right here and a helicopter up here and you're just like and you're cramping and crying.
You're like, can I just be alone in my pain cave, please? Can I just have a
Get
moment
away.
here?
You think a partner riding with you is annoying when you're hurting, like, ugh,
And they're taking
imagine
your
like
picture.
a motorcycle.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're videoing me.
Ugh.
Ugh.
I remember, I don't remember which year it was that I won, but it was one of the earlier years, and I was cramping really badly coming up that last pavement climb. And there was like this mini aid station. I don't remember what they call it. What do they call that, Eldon? Carter Summit. Yeah, that's right. And there was this mini aid station in there, and I put a foot down because I was cramping. I put a foot down to like ask them if they had anything with salt in it, any chips or anything like that, because I was sort of out of everything. As soon as I put my foot down, my calf just totally seized up. I tipped over, still clipped into my bike, and I was kind of like laying on the ground, cramping. And the aid station people were like, what can we do? What can we do? And I was like, get my foot out of the pedal. Anyway, so I got myself up, and I was like, do you have anything with salt in it? And they're looking around. They had watermelon, all this. And then they had this salt shaker that they were putting on the watermelon. So literally they hand me that. They're like, we have this. So I like unscrew it and just went with the salt and went on my way. There was no motorcycle or a helicopter at that time, but it was a funny story that I shared with Kathy Bedell of Planet Leadville. And so she gave me a salt shaker trophy the year after that, and like in a little glass case and everything. But I mean, that is such a hard part of the course. And then that last descent there, that's notorious for people flatting, Lance Armstrong and other people, before you really get into the pavement and the roll home. Were you worried about flats? Were you?
No.
I mean,
no. That was like my moment. I like all the time I lost some power line, I gotta make it up. So I was like, if I'm gonna win, I'm gonna risk losing.
So you just
I wasn't
let
thinking about
loose.
anything. Yep.
Oh my gosh. And then you hit the pavement, then what?
Just rolled in. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, were you when did you feel like you had it? When did you feel like this, I'm gonna win this thing?
Not until I crexed the little climb on 6th.
The last little climb.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. It was not something that I was allowing myself to think until.
Were you looking back? Were you looking back a million times?
Always. Yes, I probably checked over my shoulder 500 times. And
so that last little climb, there's a on the right side, there's a sign that says slow speed ahead or slow. There's like a slow sign. And every time when I hit that sign, I'm like, I'm not going slow. And that's where you can like power it down to the beautiful red carpet. And oh my gosh. Okay, so you're rolling in 6th Street. You know it's happening. What's going through your head?
Just like, what is my life? It's so crazy. I can't believe I'm living a dream that I've had for so many years, and I just pulled off something that I wrote down as my primary goal of the year. I mean, it's not like nobody else does that about Leadville. Everyone wants to win Leadville. And how many times do you train for something? I mean, you did 4 times, but how many times do most people train for something and it plays out the way that you want it to? It was, especially when you have, why would I win? Nobody, I'm not the expected winner, if that makes sense. Like, I
loved that so much. When I mean, even before I realized you're Lisa and Fatty's daughter, I was just so happy that somebody that wasn't the expected win, an underdog. I was just like, I don't know who this is, but I love this. Oh my gosh. And then you're like, yeah, I'm Elden and Lisa's daughter. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a dork. But I mean, why wouldn't you? Because why you put in the preparation and you put in the time and you dedicated hours and hours and hours and hours to it and you executed. And to have a perfect race is pretty dang special, but it doesn't just happen. It doesn't just get gifted to you. You have to earn it with the like most incredible field in the history of the race, the Leadville race. I mean, so incredible. Okay, so Fatty and Lisa, at what point, where were you on the course when you got the news like, okay, she did actually win?
This part.
Yeah. We weren't even at the pipeline. I got a text from my friend. Yeah, I got a text from my friend that she'd won 7:10.
And we got it late because we were in a cell phone dead zone when this final this final segment went down. And so I didn't have a phone. Lisa had a phone. It was connected to her Garmin, so she was seeing the text on her Garmin as she was writing. It's not like she had to get a phone out of her jersey every time the text came in. But because we were in a dead zone, just in the it doesn't matter. But because we were in the dead zone, the emails crowded and sort of backed up. And so we found out a lot of things about how Melisa's race, including her win, all at once, a little bit, kind of a little bit late. And so Lisa had a lot of news to share with me all at once.
And everyone around.
Everyone around, for sure. Yeah,
Oh
absolutely. It is something that you share.
Oh my gosh. And Melissa, were you texting them at this point too?
No, I didn't have my phone at the finish line.
Okay.
I left it back at the place, so I didn't have any form of communication with anyone. Yeah.
You're just soaking it in. Everyone's celebrating you.
I'm just like crying uncontrollably. Like,
and that was probably my hardest is rewatching the documentary or the recap. I really wish I would have been there to be the one that got to hug her at the finish line. That's the most the sadness for me. But she knows I was there at heart. And then she was waiting for me when I crossed the finish line.
I was just going to ask you that. Did you get your finish line hug as a family?
yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I had to weasel my way in there.
Oh yeah, weasel. You're like, I just won. Excuse me, I'm going in there. And was everyone crying? I mean, I'm crying just thinking about it. Was everyone crying?
I was crying when we rolled through pipeline. My son said she won, but she lost some time because she was cramping so bad, and then I start crying and thinking about how she's hurting, my baby's hurting, and yeah, lots of emotion, that's for sure.
Oh my gosh, Elden, what were you feeling as you're rolling into your 27th finish?
26th finish.
26th finish. What was going on in your head?
I remember thinking 100 times, she did it. She wanted it. She worked for it. Since she's been a swimmer, a soccer player, Melisa had a thing on her bulletin board in her bedroom that said, hard work. I forget. Hard work is more important than talent. I forget the exact word, but hard work beats talent. Melisa is talented, but there are people in that race who are at least as talented or more talented, and also very hard workers. I've never seen anyone so single-mindedly dedicated to a race, and I mean, it's a testament to it. It's as someone who loves this course, loves the normal people who do this race, we were in the Orange Corral. We were in the fat part of the race, the 10 to 11 hour finishers the whole day. We were never alone, which is probably a strange sounding thing to you, Reba, but it was to think about this one person, the fastest woman on dirt, is currently our daughter. that is just an extraordinary thing to imagine. And I was thinking about that. It's the first time I've ever crossed the finish line not thinking about myself.
Well, what I wanted to say, Alden, when you're sharing all this about Melisa's dedication and focus, and I can't help but think, she gets it from the two of you, and especially, the focus that you've had on Leadville, and then Lisa's had on Leadville, and I mean, this is you're part of the breeding and the training and teaching someone to dedicate their time and focus and energy on doing better each year. I mean, Melisa, you will, I think, agree with that you learned a lot from these two people.
Yeah, so much.
And I want to say, I mean, this extends to you as well, Reba. I mean, I learned more in the week you were mentoring Lisa than about racing and being fast and not wasting time at aid stations. Then and I learned about teaching, and so it's there is a paying it forward that definitely happens, and I am so excited to see how Melisa pays it forward now.
I mean, that makes me really happy that maybe there's a trickle down effect. And I do believe that happens. And that's why I love sports so much, because we, whether you're the first or the last person, everyone is working towards being a more resilient human being. And it is our practice field for life. And we do, we pay it forward, and the next generation goes faster and faster. And so it's an honor if maybe I've had a little bit of a trickle down effect on you and your amazing family and your Leadville story. So what's next, Melisa, for you? You've got, I'm trying to coerce you to come to Idaho, and Fatty and Lisa, you are due to come back to Private Idaho as well. But I don't know if it's in your racing cards this year. I think you're headed to SBT next, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And then how many more races for this season? Are you all mountain bike racing the rest of the season, or what's on tap?
Shawinigan, possibly a race toward the Gatineau road race in Canada, possibly the Rad, possibly Little Sugar, Big Sugar, and then I'm done. Yeah.
Cool.
That's
awesome.
All.
That's all. And so obviously this is I will say, I said it at the beginning, Leadville really, really changed my athletic career, and it's absolutely a launch pad. Have you thought about pie in the sky? Like what you might leverage or use from this experience? And I will say, soak it in and enjoy it, because no one can ever take this from you. You don't. And I used to kind of hate the question of like, well, what's next? I'm like, well, can't I just enjoy the biggest thing of my life for 5 minutes? So I only ask that question not to move you past Leadville, because this is something you'll cherish and have forever. No one will ever take it from you, and it'll always be there. But I am curious if you've thought about, you set some goals to be a pro rider, and this is obviously catapulting you further in that direction. So what does that mean to you? Have you thought about it yet?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's discussion going on, but I'm pretty excited to race mountain bikes at some point, a little more mountain biking. But other than that, I don't know. I don't know what the next big goal is. I don't know what the next obsession is.
Are you going to
happen
defend
organically
in 2025?
With drop bars?
So Elden wants to know if you're going to come back to will you keep coming back to Leadville and defend your title?
Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe. Well, I think there's only one woman who's won it 4 times, and that record has not been broken. So I'm just putting that out there. No one's even come close, actually. There haven't really been any repeat winners in the women's field since me, I think.
There was Rose Grant, I think, won.
Yeah, Rose won twice. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, There's another little carrot to dangle. I will say, you didn't ask for my advice, but I'm going to give it. And what has you've already been doing, what served you really well so far is following your passion and doing what's fun for you and doing what you like. And when I asked you, do you get tired of the Leadville course? You're like, how could I? So follow your heart and what's fun, because ultimately bike racing is a career. Ultimately it's still hopefully fun and something that you'll do for life. And there's a long road ahead of you, and you get to choose, which is super exciting.
Yep.
All right,
Thank
Mom
you.
and Dad, what are your like closing thoughts on your Leadville sort of family race, and what happened this year, and just kind of how this all feels for the two of you?
I'll go. I don't know. It really solidifies the fact that, I mean, Ken always says over and over again, it's the Leadville family. And I kind of roll my eyes, but you know what? It really is the Leadville family. I have people, I mean, just on the race that were like, I remember when Melisa was just a little pipsqueak and now she's winning. I mean, they have so many people. I mean, she lived up there for 2 summers. Was it 2 summers? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they've adopted her as their own. So, I mean, it's just, it's fun to see the legacy of us going up there and the widespread effect that we've had, and just knowing and meeting so many wonderful people. So, and I'm excited to see where she goes from here. Of course, I'm her biggest fan. I say, I'm sorry, Jeff, but I am the biggest fan.
Fatty, what are your kind of wrapping up thoughts of this experience?
We all get to pick what is important to us. And it's flattering and fun to have something that is so that we have in common in this way, to have, the Leadville, and whether it is doing it a lot or doing it really fast, we can talk in shorthand about this thing that we all love doing. I would just say that, yeah, I couldn't be prouder, not necessarily that Melisa won Leadville, that Melisa took something, whatever it is, and made it, it worked hard enough that she could become the best at it. It's inspirational.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible, and this family story is so amazing. It's pretty unique. Yes, it's the Leadville family, but your family story with Leadville is actually really quite special. And I do love that, Fatty, that you all share cycling. You get to share endurance cycling together, and now on a global stage with Melisa's performance last weekend. And I'm honored that you allowed me to talk to you and ask you these questions, because I feel like I'm part of your Leadville family too. And
Sure.
and I know that I will say, we're going to put in the notes at the bottom, Fatty has a Leadville podcast that actually really goes deeply into a lot of these things. I was able to pimp and get the story to talk to Melisa before she actually would be on her dad's podcast. So I guess I won that one. Sorry, Fatty. But we'll put that in the link. So if people, anything you need to know about Leadville, the podcast is actually a really wealth of knowledge. And Melisa, where would you like us to direct people to find you?
Instagram, Melisa_Rollins, or Strava. I love Strava. Fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I'll let you, our 2024 Leadville champion, give the closing words of the sign off to whatever you'd like to say to anyone listening, or your family, or you get to sign off.
I'm so thankful for this journey. It's so deep. It is so, I mean, people tell me I'm inspiring, but I'm inspired by everybody that I meet up here. I love Leadville, and I love the journey that it took to get here.
And we love you.
What's that?
And we love her.
Yeah, obviously it's really clear. Like the bond is so awesome to witness, and yeah, that bikes brought you all together in this way as a family. It's really special. And yeah, inspiration flows both ways. You're inspiring us, we're inspiring hopefully other people to go do long bike rides. And yeah, I really appreciate the three of you taking the time with me today, and can't wait to see what's next. It's a journey, it's not over yet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, you guys. That
Thank
was
you.
really, really special. I'm gonna put my dog out because he's about to bark, and then he is barking, as you can tell. You're being really obnoxious. I'll be right back.
It's like, take off the blur.
Here, you want to see? This is Henry. He's 1 year old. He's like,
Aw.
yeah, and he's just a spitfire right now.